Young.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for a second round here. I don't think I'll have to go quite as quickly this go around, Ms. Newstead, but let me turn to something I had mentioned I was curious about, and it pertains to customary international humanitarian law Rule 55, which says the parties to the conflict must allow and facilitate rapid and unimpeded passage of humanitarian relief for civilians in need, which is impartial in character and conducted without any adverse distinction, subject to their right of control. That's it in its entirety. On June 28, at my direction, my staff asked the Department of State whether the Saudi refusal to permit the delivery of U.S.-funded cranes to the Port of Hodeidah constituted a violation of this rule. What's your personal, professional answer to this question?
Well, Senator, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to that, and it is an important point, and we did discuss it briefly. I certainly agree with you that it's extremely important that we promote compliance with the law of armed conflict by the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen for all the reasons that you've identified, sir, and you're at the prior hearing as well. I do think that the standard that you described raises many of the same questions as we were talking about in our prior round in relation to the Foreign Assistance Act. And I would only say that it would be my expectation, if confirmed, that I would be able to dig into this issue with the benefit of more consultation with the department to be more specific in talking to you about the ways in which those standards are implicated here.
I guess your answer would be the same as it relates to Saudi Arabia's compliance or non-compliance based on the same fact pattern I'm referring to in Yemen. Compliance with Article 14 of the Additional Protocol 2 of the Geneva Conventions.
Yes, Senator, it's in order to give you a legal view that would really take account of all the factors, legal and factual and otherwise, I would want to have the opportunity to study that and consult more with the department. But again, I can certainly say that I understand and agree with your focus on the issue.
So if I don't appear frustrated, I am a bit frustrated. It took almost 3 months after my staff asked that question pertaining both to customary international humanitarian law Rule 55 and Article 14 of the Additional Protocol 2 of the Geneva Conventions, 3 months for me to get an answer. And the answer that we received was, quote, the Department of State is not able to provide Senator Young with an advisory legal opinion, unquote. As a member of the Department of State's Oversight Committee and based on Congress's Article 1 constitutional authorities, what do you think? Do you believe that's an acceptable answer?
Well, Senator, of course, I wasn't part of the discussions at the department, as you know,
yeah.
But I would say that it would be my hope that if I am confirmed, we could provide answers to you more quickly. And while I would certainly want to consult on where the department's practices have been in terms of any limits that the department feels it needs to maintain, I would also seek to engage with you and your staff closely in discussing the legal standards and issues. And I know from our discussion yesterday, you had a number of particular questions about implications of what the department had and hadn't done. It would be my expectation to work as closely with you as I could on those issues.
Well, I don't think it's acceptable, period. But thank you. Let me lastly return to one final matter. Will you please tell me how you define the term assistance in the Foreign Assistance Act, specifically telling me whether the definition of security assistance as defined in 22 U.S.C. 2304 applies to Section 2378-1. If you'd like me to say those numbers again, I'm happy to. That's why I gave you the hearing transcript so you could familiarize yourself, and you seem quite conversant in the law, so I am impressed with that.
Well, thank you, Senator. The definition, as I understand it, Senator, is quite broad under the Act. It is a question of law that, if possible, I would prefer to come back to you on with the benefit of more consideration. But I believe that the principle is quite broad, and its application to the facts here, as I said, is something that I would like, if possible, to have the opportunity to discuss with the department.
I believe it's broad as well, and so I will just provide that and some other written questions to you for your response. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I yield back.